granniopteryx, granniopteryx. She knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello. So, originally when these ambulances in Golders Green were set on fire, the information coming from the police was that it was 3 British nationals they had caught for the crime. And I saw several ex-posts saying, all you racists, it's British people who did it. These are the fine British names of these British nationals: Hamza Iqbal, Rahyam Khan, and an unnamed dual British-Pakistani national, who I believe is 17 years old, so I don't know why they're not giving his name. But he is a British national as well as being a Pakistani national. So that's 3 British nationals. As for their intelligence, well, here they are. They are hooded and masked and dressed in black so as not to be identified. However, obviously, they got to the spot in a vehicle of some sort. And just as CCTV saw them here, so various CCTVs would have seen their car, or whatever it was, arriving at the place where they committed their crime. So, not incredibly intelligent, I'd say. In fact, so unintelligent, I can't believe they actually planned this themselves. My guess is that they were put up to it by some external organisation or person. Now, it could have been somebody from one of the various mosques, because these people came from 3 different neighbourhoods in London. They might not even have known each other, but they certainly weren't within. It wasn't that they were likely to meet each other in the street. So either it was, as I said, somebody in one of the mosques, or, and in my opinion, more likely, an Iranian agent. And I think it's Iranian because, if you remember, I made a video about those strange radio signals that were being broadcast across Europe from a hitherto unknown number station. I'll try and remember to leave a link to that video, which will explain things more. But the point is that the numbers station was broadcasting in Parsi, and that's why putting those together, possibly putting 2 and 2 together and making 5, I have come to the conclusion that these kids were set up for this. And the fact that they weren't intelligent enough to realise that they would most likely get caught just shows how thick they really are. One was, I believe, 20, another 19, and the other one was, the dual national, was 17 years old. Okay, why is this happening? About 3 years ago, I think it must have been, it was probably just after the October the 7th attack on Israel, a convoy of Pakistani men drove from a demonstration, a pro-Palestine demonstration in central London, to an area of London well known to have lots of Jews. They drove up the Finchley Road and into Golders Green. And there they started shouting through tannoys about doing violence to Jewish men, and, as one of them said, we have to rape their daughters to send a message to them. Obviously, talking to the Jews of Golders Green had not occurred to him, even as a possibility. No, his answer to a political or religious disagreement was rape. That's all he could think of. And that was the person shouting through the tannoy, but there was a whole convoy following him and supporting this particular message. In response to the increasingly agitated phone calls from the residents of Golders Green to the police, well, you could say their response was somewhat lackadaisical. They caught up with these guys hours later when they were on their way out of London and heading back to Bradford. And fairly recently, after a lot of prevarication, the charges against them were dropped for lack of evidence. It was on video. Several people had videoed the convoy and recorded what the leader was shouting on their mobile phones, and these are freely available on the internet, so they were definitely available to the police, and yet they dropped the charges for lack of evidence. And that's why this is happening now. Because the Pakistani community have the idea that they can really do what they like and the police will leave them alone. I'm still waiting for the court case to come up of the Pakistani family that attacked the police in Manchester Airport 2 years ago. Perhaps it was more than that. They're just hoping it's going to go away. But we haven't heard anything about it. And are the Pakistani community condemning this action here? No, they're not. Because even the moderate ones, and there are moderate Muslims, what you might call smorgasbord Muslims, they stay culturally with their traditions, but they sort of ignore the worst aspects of Islam. They're not going to speak up either, because the community is led by a lot of stupid and indoctrinated, violent men who are pathologically jealous of any community that is more successful than them. And of course, Jews are a great example of people with a small number who have made a success of themselves and have been so successful that they can organise ambulances to serve their areas, taking the weight off the NHS. Now, I've been looking at some of the X posts in answer to this particular atrocity, and this one down here is quite typical of many that I've seen. Somebody with a Muslim name saying, "Why have Jews got their own ambulance services in Britain?" And this question is being asked again and again, despite the fact that it is consistently answered, and it's quite easy to find this out even without putting an X post up. Why Jews have their own ambulances? Because Jews got together in Golders Green and set up a charity to buy ambulances which are staffed by volunteers and are freely to be used by anybody in their area, irrespective of religion. They just go and help. And anyone in their area has their phone number. They can ring them first before they ring for an ambulance that the NHS is running. But people like this person here, they can't conceptualise the idea of an altruistic charity that serves anyone outside their immediate tribe. It's like I, or anybody watching this, cannot conceptualise what infrared really looks like. All we can see is representations of infrared because our eyes cannot perceive infrared. And this idiot here cannot perceive the idea of a charity that isn't exclusive to the group that set it up. And it's types like him that were in that Golders Green convoy I told you about. I'll tell you what, I'll find a video of it and I'll put it up here now. And it's people like him to whom the police are pandering. This whole thing here is the fault of the police and the politicians who back them up and tell them not to make trouble, not to inflame community tensions. Well, you see where this lack of inflaming community tensions is leading. 4 ambulances that did good for the whole community in that part of North London up in flames. And this will carry on happening. It's going to carry on until our politicians develop a backbone. Till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.